Dear students, today we are going to talk about the topic that is application writing. So, what is an application writing? So, we will explore this topic in detail in this lecture. So, we'll also talk about some other important topics that also are better or help you increase or they also help you develop your or sharpen your communication skills. So it is in such context you have to understand that the idea of application letter is also known as the cover letter, and it is that document that accompanies your resume or when you are applying for any job. This letter basically sort of identifies or expands upon information you have not added in your resume or CV. So when you're always or most of times sort of expected to include the cover letter, application letter into with your CV, so that you are you present your information well. So a well written application can largely inspire the hiring manager, the people who are associated with the selection process to call you up for an interview, or to just not call you up for an interview, because cover letter, application letter is all very remarkable and critical document in terms of your selection of you in a particular job. So now it points us towards a very important question, that is how to write an application letter. That is very important given the idea of its importance. So first of all, if you have to write an application, that is very important point is to basically talk about the research. First of all, before writing the application letter, it is very important for you to do some research about the company and the job opening. That is very important, and that is primary step for you to apply or write an application letter. For example, you could start researching about recent awards, recent developments that have happened in the company. And at the same time, you can also start with noting or sort of taking the information about the latest awards that the company is about. You could also explore opportunities, or you could also explore the ways, you could also explore the information related to the vision of that organization, to the vision and ideals of that organization or the company. And it is very important for you to also understand the size of the company as well, and the company culture as well, the sort of research, the sort of work that the company is associated with. So also you could also engage yourself with the social responsibility or corporate social responsibility or charitable projects or any charity or any work related to helping society done by that company. These are, and also the you could also be it would also be interesting to for you to also explore things like uh, various people who are associated with the company. For example, it would be wise to remember the name of the manager, the main names of the name of deputy manager, vice president, or other notable or other remarkable people in that company. So it's very, very important for you to keep that in mind while writing or while preparing for any job interview. So before, also it's very important for you to just use a professional format. So and this letter, the it should be very important that the letter should follow some sort of professional format, and should include your name, your contact information, the date when it's written, company's information, and should begin with proper salutation. That is very, very important thing to be taken into consideration when you are attempting to write an application letter. That's very, very important. Next important thing is state the position. Always be sure to clarify and state and demonstrate the position you are applying for. That means open the letter with a clear statement about the position you are applying for. This is regarding the position of research associate, research assistant, marketing manager. This is regarding the opening position of marketing manager in your company. Always make it sure to mention the name, to mention the company name, mention the company name. You want to specify where you saw the job posting. If you were referred by someone at the company, be sure and always be sure to sort of never forget to mention their name as well. Explain why you, and very, very important and critical part of your application writing is the special focus on the idea of explaining why you are the best candidate suitable for the advertised job. It is very, very important and very critical to give reasons, to give valid reasons, strong points in favor of you, in support of you, so that the hiring manager would also use these points, see these points, evaluate these points to see if you are, to find the suitability of you for the concerned job, for that particular job itself. So it's very, very important to provide and highlight yourself in the positive light in your application, right? Always make sure to mention your skill sets that are required for that particular job. That is very, very important part, and never forget to mention the qualities, the educational background, the qualifications that you have. Always make sure that you present yourself capable of handling the responsibility for that job. Always make it sure for that. So it's very, very important for you to kind of present yourself qualified enough to handle that job. So the process of writing should be very, very very important. So it's very important for you to also consider mentioning why do you want to do this particular job. This is because it will basically highlight the idea, it will basically highlight the motivation behind you. Why are you applying for this position? And it is very, very important. So always make sure to explain the company why you want this job, what makes this job exciting for you, why are you excited about this job opportunity. So it's very, very important. So always sort of thank the reader for reviewing your letter. Always make it sure uh, to uh, to mention that you look forward to hear back from these people. Always mention you look forward into the next steps in the hiring process, and conclude this with sincerely your name or whatever, right? That's very, very easy part in towards the conclusion of that letter. So it's not very difficult. I hope you will use this information to craft the good application letters. So there are again some more ways, some more tips, so that you write best applications for you. First of all, always make it sure to take time. That's very, very important. Always make it sure to take time to write your applications well. Rushed applications that are not personalized will be immediately obvious to employers and can give impression to them that you do not care about getting the role. So always make sure whenever you are writing an application, always make sure to think about that idea. Always make sure to sort of take time to think, take time to see what is good for you. Always take time to write your application so that it highlights a positive side of your personality, and speak their language when you are trying to write that application. Make sure you know what the employer is asking for with our job advertisement, and respond so that the person reading can see exactly your skills and relevant experience. And that is very, very important, so that you write your application in a manner which will suit the employer. Third thing which I would like you to consider is like art. Consider developing the art of selling yourself well. So what do you understand by the word selling yourself well? Selling yourself well would include the idea of presenting your personality in such a manner, in such a fashion, that it reflects a positive person inside you. It reflects a positive outlook in the imagination of employer. Always make it sure that you write your language, you write your application writer letter in such a manner that it sells you well before the employer. That is very, very important. So always make it sure to keep it relevant as well, and always make it sure whenever you have to submit your CV, whenever you have to submit your resume, always make it feel always make it sure that you sort of never send it without a cover letter, because if there is a cover letter associated or attached with the CV, there is a great possibility that you will land up taking the job. You will definitely take the job because you have done an extra step required for that job. Another thing which is very very important uh, in terms of developing your art of writing is the paragraph writing. So what do you understand, how do you what do you understand by the word paragraph? A series of sentences that are organized in a coherent, in an organized way, and all these sentences are related to a single topic that is called a paragraph. And breaking the sentence easy or topic into smaller pieces in a well structured form is known as paragraph. Paragraph writing is not just only about expressing your views about the topic in a group of sentence. It is all about structuring ideas in a clear format to make the reader fall in love with the topic and continue their studying till the end of the topic. Therefore, we should always learn the art of good paragraph writing. So, good paragraph writing is an art. Good paragraph writing always has a topic sentence. So we will be going into the idea of parts of a paragraph writing. First of all, topic sentence is the first sentence. It's a starting sentence of a paragraph. Also, we can call an introduction sentence of a paragraph. It largely points out main idea of each paragraph and therefore displays how the idea connects to the thesis and overall focus of the paper. All consequent points presented in the paragraphs must support the first sentence or the topic sentence. The supporting sentences explain more about the topic sentences by showing some facts, by showing some statistics and examples regarding or related to the topic. It includes writer's experience or own analysis and is used that's used with the topic sentence, and that's very very important in you have to sort of write a paragraph. In the end, what you need to write towards the end of paragraph is the idea of concluding sentence. Concluding sentence is the end of paragraph, and it can also be called as the final statement about the topic. It ties all the ideas given in the paragraph and emphasizes the main idea one last time. It is here we gather the conclusion or the summary of the main points that have been highlighted in the concluding sentence. The writer largely reiterates or restates what the topic sentence or summarizes largely some of the main topics, some of the main sentences, some of the main issues, some of the main themes of the paragraph. That is the function of concluding paragraph in the paragraph writing. I hope this is clear, and now we will move towards the idea of various types of paragraphs to understand that, if you have to quickly search on the idea of what are the types of paragraph, then descriptive type of paragraph becomes very, very crucial thing. This type of paragraph describes the topic and displays the reader what the subject included in it. The terms selected in the description type usually appeal to the five senses of touch, smell, sound, uh, sight, or taste. This type of paragraph can be more artistic and may vary from grammatical standards. Another type of paragraph writing would be narrative form or narrative type of sentence. In the simple words, in this type of paragraph, this type of paragraph narrates a story that includes largely a sequence of topic sentences, like a clear start, middle of the topic, and the end of a paragraph. Another form of paragraph Another type of paragraph is expository type of paragraph. Here we largely gives the instruction. It may explain a process or influence the reader step by step, but it's possible to rely. The expository para usually needs research, but also it's possible to rely on the writer's own knowledge, own information, and the experience. So it's very important for you to also consider the importance or the type of persuasive form of writing a paragraph. What do you understand by the word persuasive? This type of paragraph seeks to make the audience to admire, no, admire, not admire, but largely admit the perspective that is highlighted by the writer. And there is some sort of inherent desire, there is some form of inherent desire, inherent, passion, inherent desire to get across others, to also allow others to influence their opinion regarding the topic. That's very, very, so there is some sort sense of persuading. The act of persuading is a very, very dominant feature here. So it's very important for you to consider this part as well. So now if we just move towards the idea of, now we know all these things, now it's very important for us to also understand the idea of a good paragraph. The how do you write a perfect paragraph? Always make sure to understand what is your topic sentence. Always make sure what does it do, how do I write one, how do I write a good topic sentence. Always make sure the topic sentence is the first sentence of a paragraph. Always make sure to write it well. Then you have supporting details. What are the supporting sentences? What do they do? How do I attempt to write these? And closing sentence. What is the closing sentence? You have to be very, very clear about what is the closing sentence. How does it operate? How does it work? How can I write a topic sentence, closing sentence? That is very, very important. So Again, if we just conclude, then this paragraph writing is also connected to the idea of writing process in general, which is writing an essay. So how do you write an essay? You first of all writing an essay is it's largely lot of times, you will sort of you will sort of largely just so it's very important for us to also understand the process of writing essay. So always, whenever you are trying to write an essay, always make sure that to analyze first of all the type of question you are trying to address. Student essays are responses to various specific questions, and always make sure that you have to analyze the main question. To key terms, you analyze the idea of how do you write this, what is your main question that you are trying to address in this essay. Always try to understand and be conscious about your defining your argument. As you plan and prepare to write an essay, you must always consider what is your argument going to be. How are you sort of defending your points? And this means what is your intellectual position, what is your intellectual or informed position, or what is your perspective, or what is your point of view in that about that topic. So you can just take your decisions then accordingly. It is very important for you to also develop some sort of evidence, some sort of reasoning, some sort of scholarship, so that whenever you are attempting to write an essay, it should be evidence based. There should be enough reasoning, and at the same time, it should be laced. It should be, there should be to knowledge wise, information wise, you should never compromise on that. Or then later on, if we move towards organization of the essay, it is very very sort of very very important and critical to organize your information in such a manner that it reflects cohesiveness and not cohesive, but at the same time there is your essay looks coherent, and there is some sort of order, there is some sort of order in your presentation or in your writing process. That is very very important. So what really consists in the process of writing essay is the introduction, that should be written very good body. It should cover 2 to 3 4 to 5 paragraphs that have some sort of order. At the same time, then you can start writing your conclusions, so that there is some sort of conclusion, and that is very very important. So again, if you have to always make sure that you write clearly, you have some sort of clearliness, you have some sort of clarity on what you are writing, how you are writing. That is very very important, because clarity is only produced through careful revision and editing. So always make sure whenever you have to just write your essay, always edit it, be very clear how the important idea, what is have the important this important idea, that you have to be very very clear in terms of writing an essay. Always make sure that you cite sources and you also have evidence. Always, whenever you are trying to write an essay, always make sure that you cite references, you cite sources from in your presentation. And this is largely, if you largely discuss, or if you largely take these things into consideration, then your process of writing will be very, very easy. And um, it's very easy for you to also understand that the process of writing essay, nobody is perfect in writing essay, but always practice makes one perfect. Always make it sure to show your writing sample, to show your essay to your friends, to your mentors, so that you are guided wisely, so that they offer you expert opinion on how to write a very good essay. Again, if we move towards the process of betterment or process of being an effective communicator or effective writer, it becomes very critical for us to understand that the art of writing is very diverse. The art of communication is diverse. We have to understand the nature of writing is also diverse. And you might be expected to write, in a very, very different manner in one situation. You might be expected to write in a very, very different situation at different time. So it's very important for you to also understand the process of precise writing. Precise writing is a summary. It is basically the idea of you must be very, very, this process of writing. In this process of writing, you have to be care. You have to have a careful objective and maintain the theme of the passage without excluding the critical or important points from the passage. The word precis basically comes from the Latin word precisus and the old French word precis, which means abrupt, which largely, for your sake of understanding, means abridged, or the shortened. The word precis, so it's very important, very simple to understand that precis would be abridged version of a novel. Let's suppose, for example, if you have a novel which is like 300 pages long, and if now you are trying to write an abridged version of that novel, then that novel will be only 30, will be only 50 pages, would be only 30 pages and not 300 pages. That would be abridged form of writing that novel. So it's very important for you to kind of understand that there are essential rules, there are essential ways, there are how do you write well. That is very, very important. So understanding the text is a very, very important point which you have to keep in mind if you have to write the presses. The main and most crucial point is to read the multiple times, or any passage that you from which you have to write presses. It's possible that you might have missed on some points. So you always make sure to repeat and understand the text well before you even attempt to write the preface of any passage. Then, after doing this, it is very, very important for you, very, very critical to divide and highlight and divide the text. Divide the text into smaller parts, chunks of information, and make sure you use a highlighter to highlight the main details for the future reference. It's very important to create an order of the texts so that you line up each event and do not muddle up the points. You do not mix the points. That is very, very important. So again, you have to create the idea of mind map in your writing so that you construct your phrases in your mind before you are trying to attempt that in your paper. So always make sure that there are certain rules to keep in mind if you have to write a very good precise writing. So it's very important for you to so it's very important to keep these rules in mind so that you have a very good precise writing skill. So keep the text terse and up to the point. Use shorter words and always make sure that your text is very, very lucid to understand. Always make sure that you have to and your text should be the sort of miniature idea or reflection of the original text that you are trying to write. So always do not just always make sure do not elaborate a lot on one single point. Do not use your own interpretation, criticism, or assumption. Do not copy sentences from the original text or use abbreviations. That's a very, very important. Do not also make sure there is a flow in the arguments. There is a flow of events that is flowing in that passage. Always make sure that you protect that flow and meaning of that text. That is very, very important. So always make sure to keep these things in mind. And I'm sure in this lecture you largely developed some sort of idea about perfecting your art of communication, or you sort of developed various techniques of writing. And sometimes in the form of essay you might be given more time to explain your ideas. You might be given more opportunity, more time, more space to express yourself freely. But in the case of precise writing, you are not given so much of liberty. You are not given so much of freedom to explore your creativity. So it is again one more form of creativity, one more form of writing. So I'm sure if you are capable, if you have taken this information seriously, and I am sure you will use this information to perfect and be effective communicators in future. Thank you. Dear students, today we are going to talk about this important topic, that is CV. So, we are going to talk about how to write CV, what are the important components of writing a CV. So, we just it's a very important topic as far as your professional career is concerned. So, if you have to write a CV, is any a document, largely, it consists of what you have done throughout the course of your life. What are the educational qualified what is the educational qualification you have, what sort of activities have you done, what sort of extracurriculum activities have you done. So there are largely various ways, various topics, various sections in a CV, and so that we will discuss these things one by one. So always, whenever you have to write your CV, first of all you have to know that what are the places where it is expected to where it is expected from you to send the CV. So it is at the same time, first important thing is that you have to send your CV. Maybe if you apply for a job in some company, maybe if you apply for a job in some organization, you will be asked to send your CV for the perusal of the company owners or organizational head. So at the same time, if you are applying for PhD process applied abroad, if you are applying for master's course in abroad, so you will be also expected to write your CV and send it across to the university for checking your eligibility for that course. So it is very important for you to understand what are the various components, what are the various ways in which you will be able to write a very good CV. So largely what you should write in your CV, and you should be careful to write correct contact information. So what does include in the contact information? So you have to make sure that you write your phone number correctly, so that the organization, so that the company is able to contact you in case they want to contact you regarding some matter concerning the job that you might have applied previously. Again, you in the contact information, you have to write your email address, so that largely it's through these communication or business communication, interview process is largely it is conveyed through emails. So it's very important for you to give correct phone number and correct email address, so that so that the company is able to contact you accordingly. So next important factor that you have to take into consideration is writing your academic timeline, academic history. So what do you include in the academic history is the courses that you have done, the qualification that you have done. For example, if you are at this point of time in your master's degree, so then it becomes very important for you to write your degrees, write the university from your where you have done this, write the year in which you have done this, write the grade that has been assigned, that you got in that exam. So it is very important for you to write your academic history, write your academic timeline, write your academic timeline in such a manner that it is quite readable and is in order for the interviewer to read it, so that he gauges your suitability, so that he gauges to check your suitability for the job you have applied. Another thing which is very important as far as your CV is concerned, it is the addition, it is the inclusion of your professional experience. For example, if you have worked, if you have worked in some university, if you have worked in some college, it's very important for you to write your teaching experience, write your working experience. If you have worked in a university, if you have taught, then it becomes very important to mention that experience in your CV. If you have worked as a research assistant, research associate, marketing associate, whatever job have you written, have you done, it is becomes very very important to highlight the professional experience, so that so that you present yourself as a suitable candidate for the position that you have applied. Again, it becomes very important not only to write your qualifications, but also at the same time skills is very very important. For example, if the job that you have applied demands that you have computer skills, it's very important for you to show that you are well efficient regarding the use of computers. You should always be very very careful to demonstrate those skill sets, always show and demonstrate that you are very good at these skills. So it's very very important to also mention your skill sets, so skills can be very very diverse. For example, you can write computer skills. For example, you could also mention that you have a very good expertise, very good skill at using Excel, you in using these softwares, that will be computer skill. Again, you can also talk about the soft skills like team management, leadership skills, good communication. So these are also team player. These are also some of the other skills that you have to write in your CV, so that it becomes a very deciding factor. It becomes a positive factor for you. In case of your life, if you have won certain awards or some awards or honors, if you have been showered with some awards and honors, you have to write those awards as well. For example, if you have qualified junior research fellowship, if you have been given some award for recognition of some work that you might have previously done, so always make sure to write those things in your CV, so that it boosts the credibility and adds a positive cap, positive feather. It adds a positive dimension for your candidature. So it's very very important to write that as well. Again, it becomes very important to also write if you have some publications. For example, if you have written a paper, if you have written a research paper, then it is also very important to mention the publication of that research paper as well. So always make sure that you write your papers, you write your articles in your CV also, so that it shows that you have research potential, so that you have a writing skill, you have a good writing skill, that is very very important to be included in the. Suppose if you have got some fellowship, suppose if you have got some grant to do some research, it is very very important for you to also mention these grants, so that you put a very positive picture in front of the interviewer, so that he selects you for the job that you might have applied. Again, the personal information is a very, very tricky subject. It's a very, very tricky matter. In terms of personal relationships, personal information, it becomes very important to mention your street address, to mention your location where permanent address is very, very important. You can also highlight marital status. That's also somewhere certain jobs want you to write that status as well. You can also add those. You can add hobbies as well. You can write hobbies. You can also write some soft skills, and that is like personal information. Do not write your food choices. Do not write anything, but do anything, any personal information which is too personal to be written in the CV. That is the very, very important thing that you have to write. Of course, do write your hobbies. Of course, do write your information. Of course, do write interests. But at the same time, do not go so personal. Do not use too much of personal information. I like this food. This is my favorite food. Do not use those things, because it is a very, very professional it's a very, very professional sort of a document. So you have to act professional. You have to write professional. You have to write professional. So it's very critical, so that it's very critical for you to know that the personal, what is personal information, what is the limit of discussing, what is the limit of including your personal information in your CV. That's a very, very important topic, to be very, very important discussion. So now there is a great debate. There is a very, very important, lot of people just ask these questions: what is the difference between CV and resume? So what is the difference? Largely, the if you just have to remember the key difference of between CV and resume, then the idea of length is very, very important. So CV has a, in terms of, I mean, say in terms of length, CV has has um, uh, if you just talk about before that, unlike CV, resume doesn't include all of your professional experience. Your resume is a brief summary of your skills and experiences, and largely the interesting part about resume and CV is the length. Usually resume is a very short and CV is long. So resume, CV can go for like a lot of pages, but resume has to be very, very short, including main details, that your main points, main things that you have done. So for example, you might also like to consider this difference when you are expected to send your resume or CV. That's a very, very important. So if a company wants you to send the resume, always make sure to send it short, punchy. If a company wants to send you CV, then always make sure to send it, it should be like 5 to 6 pages, 4 to 5 pages, lengthy enough to give it an idea that you have sent the CV. So now it's a very, very important part in the process of interview, followed by interview process. Let us suppose, for example, if you have applied for a job and now you were selected for that job. So after the selection process, it's very important that you should have an idea of what is a joining letter. So joining letter is a very, very important document that you have to take into consideration. The purpose of writing a joining letter is to express your desire or sort of acceptance or willingness to accept that particular job which you had previously applied. So additionally, it also serves as a formal record of the start of your job with that company. Joining letters are usually addressed to top management officials or the owner or the manager or the owner of that company. So it's very, very important to be very well aware about those things as well. So how do you write then? How do you write a joining letter? So now you know what is the purpose of writing a joining letter. Now you should know how should you write a joining letter. First of all, start your joining letter by mentioning the date on which you are writing the letter, so that to give some authenticity, so that to make other people or make the other person realize the date in which you have written that letter. So it should include, for example, if you are writing this on the 13th of May 2022, always write that date so that it gives a fair idea for about the date of that letter. So it should also followed by the name, designation, address of the receiver. That is a very, very important thing that you have to take into consideration. It should again be followed by the subject line. What is a subject line? It's a line. Subject line is especially important if you are sending your joining letter by email. Always make sure that it helps in visibility of your communication and lets the manager know, lets the receiver know beforehand what the letter is all about. So always make sure to write your subject letter, subject line, which clearly sort of reflects the main idea or main uh, sort of reflects the purpose or the reason why this letter was sent to you, so that it highlights what is the content all about, what is the this mail all about. It's very important also to sort of add some sort of uh, the reference to the previous communication that you had. So it's very, very important to mention these. So always write joining letters with passion, with and later on also be very, very close, be very, very important enough to also write these joining letters with proofread them before you are sending it across to the interviewer or the manager of that company, so that it gives a very positive impression of you. So it is also later on sort of followed with a formal salutation, right? Then it's also later on followed by main body of the text, where you write few paragraphs, provide a conclusion, very simple, attach certain some documents. For example, if you are joining if you're joining some company, then it may be expected from you to uh, submit your qualification certificates, your degree or diploma certificates. So always make sure you attach those documents also, and other required documents that are asked by the company, so that you fulfill the complete requirement of that job application. So mention, for example, now if you do not have some documents, for example, if you do not have passport at the moment, if you do not have some document that is missing, some document which is in process in the department, you can also mention in the joining letter that since you are not you can write like this. You're not including these sort of letters, these sort of documents into this letter because they are already in process in the department. The moment you get hold of them, the moment those documents are finished, you would definitely send them across as soon as possible or immediately after you receive those documents. This is also very, very important thing. Now, since you were you took an interview, you joined the company, and now after that, if there is after working some hours, after working some years, so it's possible that you might, because of some reason, because of some bad experience, because of some because of deliberately trying to move ahead, or just do some sort of this some sort of shift towards other company, switch to some other company, so you at the same time write a resignation letter. It's a formal document notifying the manager, notifying the owner of that company that you are not interested, you are no more interested in working with them, no more interested to work to do that job. So that's a very, very important thing. So resignation letter is a very, very important document because it familiarizes your departure from your current employment and can be submitted both face to face, and it can also be sent through email, and both ways you can do it depending on it's your prerogative, your choice, and depending on the suitability of that. So when should you give a resignation letter to an employee? So it's very, very important for you to be very conscious, be very alert, before you be very conscious and alert about the consequences of writing a resignation letter. When you have consequences in mind, then you write resignation letter. You can write resignation letter and it can be a positive factor for you, it can be a positive point for you, but at the same time there might be some bad experience working with that company. So in that context, the resignation letter can also be a very, very bad experience for any person. So when should you give a resignation letter? So it depends on either if you are too bored working for that company, you give a resignation letter. Either you are too stressed and you are not able to handle the work pressure, you give resignation letter. Either you deliberately or positively want to switch to other company for the growth, you also give resignation letter. So that these are somewhere some of the reasons that are that are very important in terms of writing a resignation letter. That's a very, very important. So how exactly do you write your resignation letter? First of all, your letter should start with the fact that why are you resigning? Why are you leaving that job? Again, it should also follow with your last day of the employment. What was the last day that you worked with company? An offer to assist with the transition. You can also tell the employer that since you are leaving on this date, it might not be possible for you to sort of uh, get some other person, experienced person to handle your job. handle your work. So you will help with the transition process till you find some other person who will take responsibility of your job that you are doing. That's a very very good point, very very good behavior in terms of you leaving that company with dignity and respect. So also you can also start mentioning the questions that you may have for the manager. You can also write your contact information. So if you have about final include your personal contact information so that it's very easy for the company to get in touch with you. That is very very important. Your signature, already just have a hard copy letter should include your written signature about your typed name. If you're sending an email, simply type your name so that you are it's very easy for these people to connect with you again later on. So what since we told you about since we discussed what should what should or what should be in the resignation letter. So what not to include is also very very important. So what not to include is you don't need to include the reason why you are moving on, especially if it's a negative one. Don't disclose why you are leaving the company. If it's a very very negative, that you hate the boss and now you are telling them you hate the boss, it's a very very bad experience, do not do that. Resignation letters are not appropriate place for complaints or critiques of a company manager. So there is no need to mention that in your letter. You have some other way, use that way, but do not use resignation letter to to express your emotions, especially bad ones. Don't use letter to discuss how great the new job is and how thrilled you are about the new job. That's also going to turn a negative. It's going to be negative for you. It's So always make sure not to be emotional when you are writing your resignation letter. That's a that's a quite summary of what to write. So how do you write then resignation letter is very very important. So write a resignation letter. Just mention your contact information, mention greet these people well, write some paragraph why you're leaving, how just write if you're helping them with transition process. Signature, close the with formal sign off. Signature, again include the name, include the contact information, and that is how you write your cover these resignation letters. And I'm sure it's going to be very very easy when you use this information in future. So again, now let's suppose, for example, now you have to write a cover letter. So how do you write a cover letter now? So what do you include with what is included in the cover letter is you start by listing your name and address. You include the date, list of recipient's name, and so largely what I believe is that you start listing your name and address before you start writing a cover letter. As many as standard business letters, you should include few pieces of information at the top of your cover letter so that it becomes very easy for other people to contact you in future. So that's very very important. Include the date when you include the date of the day you're sending the letter. The date line should be separated from your address and the recipient's address as well. So that's also very very important point to be noted. with the introduction. Start with introduction. Include, start by introducing your letter with a standard greeting like "there" or "hello." You can choose your salutation according to your taste and according to what the situation demands. Write a second paragraph about your background. That's also very, very important point to be noted. If you have to write your cover letter, focus on another reason why you're qualified in the next paragraph, why you're qualified enough to apply for that job, why you're qualified enough to apply for that position. It's a very, very very, very important point. Conclude with the reasons why you are uniquely qualified, very, very important. And finally end up with signature, and that is very, very. And finally sign your name, sign your name after closing a line like, I wish I look I look to I would love to hear from you, please find my cover letter attached with this email. That is one thing you can just write, in your cover letters. As far as the now, if you are just attending, if you are organizing a meeting, so that's also very, very important. So if you're writing these minutes, so minutes of a meeting, then what are meeting minutes? Meeting minutes are basically nothing more serious, but after you are writing meeting, you have to also be very, very sure about how meetings are like. You record the sort of, I mean, say after the meeting is done, you record some important points that were highlighted, that you discussed in the meeting. So it's very important that these are recorded during the meeting, and they highlight key issues, key themes that were discussed in the meeting. And also they also mention the to they also act as a majorly they act as a record of the it's a synopsis, it's a record of that meeting. So what are the steps involved in the process of writing a meeting would be like, you start with sort of pre-planning that meeting. You start record taking, then you start writing or transcribing minutes, you start sharing meeting minutes, and then for storing of minutes for referencing in the future. So pre-planning is very, very important. Meeting agenda is very, very important. Expectations are very, very important. So always make sure that you write your meetings well. Always make sure that you write meetings in certain, or in some fashion, which is very, very important, because minutes are very crucial to recollect what was discussed in that meeting. So it's very important to write the date and timings that the meeting happened, name of the attendees, as well as the absent participants. At the same time, you can also start accepting amendments of the previous meeting. Also, you can also just mention some key decisions that were taken in that meeting. So these are also an active, and also mention what were some of the agreements that were done, what were some of the key points that both the parties agreed in that meeting. And also what are the next steps. One is the next meeting expected to have to happen, that these things are also to be taken into consideration. So what were the motion, how what were the things that were accepted, what were the things that were rejected, what were the new proposal for new meeting. So that's very, very important. So once the meeting ends, don't take too long to write the meetings. This way everything that took place in the meeting is still fresh in the mind. So don't always make sure to take minutes immediately after the meeting is done, or during the course of meeting, but not too long after the meeting. Because see, this is very important to highlight that if the meeting is done and dusted, but what you will then forget the key details, key points in that meeting. So it's wise to write those points immediately after the meeting is done. That is very, very important in terms of writing a meeting. So in terms of again, so if you just be very conscious about these points, I'm sure you will write very good meeting minutes. So that's very, very that will basically enhance your communication skills. So again, now taking reports is also very, very important, because you have to document a report. For example, if there's a report, if there's an event going somewhere, so you have to report that event. So how do you report that event is a very, very important thing in the process of communication. So figure out the presentation style. How are you going to present that event? Always have that in mind. What is your presentation style? There are many different ways people express themselves. There are many different ways people can organize your event report. Some of them are on the paper, some of them are staples, some of them are emailed as PDFs. So some of them as PDF or assembled in PPTs. But always make sure what is the best way you are going to write your event report. Again, it becomes very important for you to kind of track the key points, track key information in that. Never rely solely on your memory. You must remember some details, because some detailing is very, very important. You have to remember the funding you have that was sponsored, who funding. You have to remember the key details of that event, so that you mention those key information, track that key information, write it down in your report, so that it increases the authenticity of that report. Always, whenever you are trying to write a report, always be very punchy. Always try to summarize. Always try to sum it up. Always try to use very less words. Always try to be very clear in your communication process of writing a report. That is also very, very, the process of reporting should be done wisely with good communication skills. That is also very, very important thing to be concerned. Don't focus on the feel good or motivational things, but rather focus on key points of the event. Don't get emotional. Be very practical, rational, detail oriented. That is how good reporting is done. Some sort of visual details are always good idea, because it helps people understand the event better. Always be very, very imaginative enough to write a report in certain manner. Write a report in certain manner, so that it increases visualization in the mind of a reader. What I'm trying to say is, write in certain manner, write in certain fashion, so that you add in some sort of imagery around that report, so that the person who is reading that report is able to feel that the event must have been like this, event must have been like that. Always and never forget to write sponsors who sponsor the event, what were the main contributors of that event, who sponsor, who just invested money, and also be very, very sure about names, and just be very clear about, be very sure to write the names of sponsors correctly, and details related to the sponsorship very clearly, because that is the very, very important part of organizing events. Provide numbers, statistics, and other days very correctly. So always just try to write your report, organize it well, put the right content. Always finalize your event report. Always make sure to proofread it before you are sending across to anyone you have to submit that report. Always make sure you write and check grammatical errors. proofread it so that you write a very good piece of report. Overall, what we did in this presentation was, these were some points, some things which are largely connected in enhancing your art of communicating well, in increasing and boosting your your communication skills, so that you are effective communicators, so that you use communication skill to your advantage, not only for your personal life but also for your professional life as well. So I think if you use these videos, it's going to be very, very motivating. It's going to be very good as far as your career is concerned. Thank you. Dear students, today we are going to talk about this very, very important topic, that is presentation skills. So how do you present yourself so that you add magnetism to your personalities? So how do you develop these presentation skills is the this is the center attention, is the largely we will just discuss this idea in this slide. So uh in fact, if we just talk about this presentation skill, so you will just use these skills not only in your professional career, but also in your personal life as well. So there are a lot of ways in which through which you can improve your presentation skills. So first of all, you have to always take care of the thing that you have to always practice presentation skills. Naturally, you want to just rehearse your presentation multiple times, and while it can be very, very haunting, very, very difficult for a lot of people to perfect this skill, but at the same time practicing over and over again, practicing a lot of times before you have a big presentation, before you have to present somewhere, it's going to give you a lot of confidence. It is basically going to add a lot of self belief in you, as a sort of self confidence in you, that you will perform best. If you get nervous about speaking, then it will basically not be good for you, but practicing will slightly reduce that nervousness, and then you ultimately just give a very, very good presentation. So next is transform your energy into the enthusiasm. It may, but often you will just get just often you will just feel that there's a down, there's a lack of energy. So at the same time, so often there's a suggestion that it sort of, because largely a lot of these studies have also shown that enthusiastic speech can win over an eloquent one. And since there's very, very important for you to sort of uh, train yourself to use this nervous energy, use the nervousness into that enthusiasm by taking care of being very, very confident on stage, being very active about being nervous. Anybody can be nervous, but at the same time use that nervousness for bringing, for nurturing the sort of enthusiasm into your personalities. That's a very, very important thing to develop an art of the presentation. Another point which you can develop, which you can use to sort of develop your presentation skills, is attend other presentation. If you are giving a talk as a part of conference, try to attend some of the earlier talks by other presenters to see how are these people presenting, how have they presented, what was the nature of the body language they used. So always see those see those presentations as very as guiding books for you, as see them as as a text of wisdom and information for you to develop your own idea of your own skills of presentation. So it's very important for you to also attend other people's presentation as well. So another point which will basically make you very confident about how you present yourself and how do you make a very good presentation is arriving early. It's always sort of very good option to allow yourself some time to settle and before you begin to talk. So it's wise if you come early. It's very good if you come early, then see the stage, see how where audience is going to sit, see if test if microphone is working, test if other things are in order, so that you have some sort of calmness, some sort of confidence within you to make a very good presentation. That's a very important point. So it's quite related to arriving early, because if you arrive early, then you'll be in a very solid and good position to adjust to your surroundings. The more adjusted you are with your surroundings, then more comfortable, more confident you are going to feel at that point of time. Make sure to spend some time before the actual before the presentation starts, so that you are mentally prepared, you are mentally in a zone, mentally in a space, and so that you feel very much confident to present well on that day. That's a very important point. Do your best also when you are presenting. Always make it sure to talk and chat with people before your presentation. Talking with people, talking with audience makes you seem more likable and approachable. Ask event these managers event questions and take their responses. They may even give you some inspiration to weave into, to add into your talk. That's a very important point to be noted. Another thing which is very important as far as you're developing the sort of presentation skills is concerned, whether you are always when we imagine a positive outcome or in our scenario, then it's more likely to play out the way we have imagined it before. That means if we imagine if we imagine a presentation, if we imagine a positive outcome in that presentation, if we imagine that this presentation is going to be a good one, then it's very important to also carry forward that positive visualization in your mind, so that you have some sort of so that you are in a very good position to give a best presentation. So always whenever there is a lot of stage fear in people, there is a lot of fear in people's mind that if they present, then there are going to be people, and there are a lot of people who will start questioning them, who will give them hard time, who will basically oppose them, who will be who they feel are like enemies. So but at the same time, I think it will just be very wise to sort of imagine that this audience is mostly sympathetic to you. They are lovely people, and audience some always audience wants you to succeed. They always want you to present well. In fact, many people have fear of public stage, fear of public speaking, because they feel that uh, the audience is their enemy. It makes them nervous, less confident, and they ultimately are not developing their fear. They are not developing their public speaking skill. So it's a very, very important point to be noted, that you have to keep in mind that audience is your friend. They are your friends, and they want you to succeed. And that's a very, very important point. Always, again, also very important point is take deep breaths. So what is basically, if sometimes if nervousness hits you, if you feel less confident, always make sure to sort of uh, take deep breaths, because it will the deep breaths will basically heal you. They will make you feel less anxious about the situation. That is very, very important. And so that, you take deep breaths, it helps you to get oxygen to your body, to your brain, and then it also helps you relax your muscles. And when you relax your muscles, you are automatically more confident on the stage. That's a very, very important. Another thing which is very important as far as your presentation skills are concerned, it's always a smile. Smile increases good endorphins, which basically make us feel good. And at the same time, they also make you feel they replace anxiety, and they make you feel calm. So it's always a very, very good, it's a good suggestion to always smile when you have a presentation. Always smile, keep smile as a part of your presentation. So always, because it also gives some sort of positive vibe to the people around, to the audience. So it's always wise to smile, before during the presentation as well, after the presentation as well, on stage as well, so that it reflects that you are a very cool person, so that it reflects that you are a very, very confident person. Next important thing is exercise. Early in a day or prior to your presentation is a very, very important. If you are going to gym daily, then it's not recommended. If you are not going to gym, if you're not doing any sort of exercise, it's highly suggested that you do exercise before you or before the day of your presentation, before one day of your presentation. It will make you feel good. It will make you feel confident and relaxed on the day of your presentation. So it's a very, very important. One more important point about presentation is the idea of using language in such a fashion, using language in such a manner, so that you add pauses into your language, so that you have some sort of order, so that you have some sort of tonality. You maintain that tonality in your language, and that is a very, very important point to be noted here. So work on your pauses. See where you have to use pause, where you have to stop, where you have to speed up, how to use pauses in such a manner so that they beautify your presentation. That is a very very important part in making you a good presentation, good presenter. So don't try to sort of talk a lot, or try to cover too much material in your presentation. Always make sure you have a very good introduction. Always make sure you have a very good body, and then you conclude that. Always make sure that your presentation is punchy, your content is not too long, it's not too short, but it's in middle. So always make sure that you always make your presentations brief enough to not be boring for your audience. That's a very very important point to be noted. So engage audience as well actively. If you engage audience, then it is going to be very important for you to also sort of, people love to talk and make their opinions heard. So after the presentation, always make sure that there is a question and answer session, so that if audience has any questions, any queries, so that you will be able to attend those queries. That's a very very important. This part of being entertaining is also quite related to what I told, like you have to smile. So at the same time, actively sort of be entertaining. Always use jokes, use smile, use humor in your presentation, so that it is not so serious enough that people do not watch you speak. So it's also very very important in that. So admit, sometimes it's very okay if you do not know answer to some questions. Feel okay, feel natural and normal if you do not know the answer of some question. There is no harm in accepting that you do not know answer of some question. You are not expected to know every damn thing that exists in this world. So it's very important for you to uh, be very very humble in saying that you do not know the answer, you do not know the answer for that question. Very very important. So always use power stance. Practicing confident body language is another way to boost your presentation skills. When your body is physically demonstrating confidence, your mind will follow. So that's also very very important. Again, drinking water is a very very important, which will again soothe your muscles, which will again may help you in staying hydrated enough to deliver your talk. It is not only words that you speak, but at the same time your body should also be very fresh enough to talk loudly, talk with energy. That is a very very important skill of presentation. So always make sure to take plenty of water and stay hydrated, so that you maintain very good standard in presenting. So again, at the same time, always there will be fear. You have to accept that fear is a part of our life. Accept that there can be some fears that will exist in your body. Accept that. Always make sure not to fight those fears, but also try, accept those fears. Don't try to fight them. Don't try to curse yourself, you have this fear, you have this fear, no, you're stuck because of this fear. Always try to accept, yes, you have that fear, it's very okay, let me just deal this, and don't fight it, don't ignore it. So that's a very, very important part in terms of perfecting your presentation skills. Now, in order to present well, body language becomes a very, very important topic to for inquiry. What do you understand by the word body language? Body language is a science of non-verbal communication, such as gestures, facial expressions, how your eyes speak. Basically, when we are talking, when we are communicating with some other person, it is not only through words that we speak with that person. It's again very true that our body, our eyes, our face, our body gestures, the movement of our eyes, the movement of various muscles in our body, they always communicate to other person. They are always sending message to other person. So always be very conscious about the meanings of various body levels. So always be conscious about how to read body language. So you have to always make sure that you first of all understand that the sort of cultural background or cultural differences can have a very big influence on how they use, how they read your body language. So in many western countries, eye contact while speaking suggests openness and interest. And however, you have to read the idea of body language is dependent on culture. So nodding in many countries includes agreement. In others, it might mean the other person acknowledges your words. So always the body language is dependent on the cultural differences. In one culture, one body language, one body part will suggest some other thing, will suggest one thing, but in another country it will suggest some other thing. So it's a very, very important to recognize that as well. Developmental differences, the people also use and interrupt body language differently than neurotypical people do. For example, you might kind of fidget when you're bored, but the people might fidget in order to increase focus, calm nervousness, and self-soothe in other ways. So it's a very, very important for you to also see how developmental differences also help us read body in a very, very differences. Along with that, psychological differences can also help us understand one body movement in one country in a one different way, and in another country in a very, very different way. So how do you then become uh, a very good reader of body language? That's a very, very important point to be noted. So if we just talk about the sort of decoding the mouth, so smiles are very, very important. So with true and genuine smiles, so people can just read you. With insincere smiles, people don't involve the eyes. Potential partial smiles could mean something, full smiles could mean something. Smile accompanied by lasting eye contact, long glance, and head tilt can suggest some different thing. So it's very, very important for you to also sort of understand how mouth can have its own language. So compressed and narrowed lip would suggest something, the eyes can suggest, particularly mouth with lips extra can also suggest something. So always make sure to read mouth, to read face in such a manner so that you interrupt a positive message from there. The eye, if you just read eyes, then the blinking would suggest something. Gaze. But you can just particularly see how eyes also suggest something. Gazing some person for a constant period of time would mean something different, or again eye blocking would be very very different for some other person. So washing the arms and legs would also be very very, people often cross their arms when feeling vulnerable, when feeling anxious. So always make sure to read these things. Tapping feet, leg jiggling, shifting from foot to foot would often just be very, very, also has a message. Hands, many people also use hands for use gestures for emphasizes when they use hands. So it's a very, very important for you to read hands as well. So the sort of these breathing also is a very very important. So breathing can also I can suggest that if you are excited, if you are nervous, if you are anxious. So it's very very important. So body positions are also very very important. They also carry a very good message. They also carry very diverse message. So position, depending on your posture, depending on leaning back on the wall, leaning into a conversation, scratching your head, standing straight with hands, resting your head on the one side, tilting the head and body to the one side, often also has a message. So it's always just always be sort of very very conscious about these things so that you are in a very very good position to sort of use body language. So body, if we just take it together, then body language, this was generally to give you an idea of how to read body language, and also to give you a fair idea of how body also has a language which needs to be read. And that's a very that was my main concern here. So body language can be a very very complex and different to understand. It can be very very diverse to understand, the very minuscule, very very diverse ways body functions. So it's a very very important point there. In fact, there's an entire field of study called kinesics devoted to understanding non-verbal communication expressed through body. That's a very very important point. So try to always study body. Try to always study how body also communicates. So that's a very very important point to be noted. So now there's an important point, that is how to describe people. So if you have, let's suppose for example, if you are working in journalism, if you have to prepare a report, if you have to send a report, so always make sure that no, you describe people well. You always make sure to you how do you describe people. So you have some points that that you need to take into consideration if you have to write a report about writing people or describing people. That's a very very important. So always make sure that you use right adjectives. So for example, an adjective is a kind of word that describes a noun. Noun can be any person here. So what are some of the words you can use to describe? So largely we describe someone's height. You can say that they are tall, they're short. You can, someone who weighs more than average can be curvy, can be well built, he can be heavy. So largely, you can just slim, thin, so thick, you can use these things. So largely, besides, you can use some physical features, facial features, like short hair, long hair, curly, straight, wavy hair, frizzy to describe, or bald to describe how a presence of hair in them. So you can also with beard, with mustache, with good looking. You can also use beautiful, fair dog to describe beauty. And also at the same time, you can use the words like, clothing styles. You can also use these things like that. So always make sure to use physical features, use clothing to describe people, use someone's motivation to describe people, use sometimes humor if they have lack of humor, if there's too much of humor, if they are serious, if they are boring, if they are arrogant, if they are nervous, if they are depressed, if they are anxious, if they are modest, if they are polished, if they show off, if they look like this, if they are miserable, they're melancholic, they're mad, they're anxious, they're fed up, they're angry, they're stressed, they're serene, they're tranquil, they're relaxed. So all these things are various objectives. They're bored, they're motivating, they're energetic. So always make sure to use these kind of things to describe people. So all whenever you have to describe people, so often use you can use physical features. You can then use some sort of psychological features as well, depending on your interaction, depending on the interaction you have with these people. So always make sure that you use these things to describe any people if you have to describe. So always use these points whenever you have to describe people. So how do you then describe a place? That is a very, very important. So how do you describe a place? So let's suppose, for example, you know uh, you can just describe a place through characters, senses. We feel connected to a place in a story when we see it through character senses. So it's a very, very important for you to also describe place through a character, through visiting that by sort of including time period in description. This is particularly so in historical fiction. So again, you can use time period to describe a place. That's a very, very important. For example, you can use 90s Delhi. 90s, how was 90s Delhi? So now you are using time as a very important factor here. So always use that. So how do you describe place so reader can sense the time period? You can, for example, say let's suppose you have to discuss 80s London, 60s London, and now you're discussing modern London. So that's a very, very important for you to understand the presence of technology, lack of traditional, this technology, industrialization. This all gives us the idea of a time as well. So you sort of give them examples of you pick up these things to describe a place as well. So again, you can also describe a place through culture. Let us suppose, for example, you are trying to write about the cuisines, you are trying to write about the food culture there, you're trying to write the different sort of foods available there, you're trying to see how people eat there. So you can also describe a place there. You can also describe the place through festivals, important festivals these people have, the folklore of that country, folklore of that place. That's a very, very important. So also you can also use you can also start using current affairs, current politics in terms of discussing, because politics is very, very important. So important part of discussion when you're talking about a place. So always make sure to talk about politics of that space, so that politics of that place, so that you are in a very, very good position to sort of give an fair idea of how politics. So if you have to discuss any place, always make sure to talk about the culture, always make sure talk about politics, always make sure talk about some sort of the some sort of always do some research about culture, folklore of the country, of that place, so that it becomes very easy for other people to read about that place. include small scale changes in time, what how see if you are writing about a place and then you're writing 90s time of that place, now you're writing modern time. So it would be quite very good for you to write about that place and highlight, how it was back then and how it is right now, in order to sort of understand that place from a historical perspective. So that is very very important part of discussing any place in a historical context. It's a very very important point to be noted here. So use that as well to write your place. So always how it's also, you can also add your subjective experience as well. What do you understand by the word subjective experience is how has your how has let me just kind of rephrase this. How after you visited that place, what was your experience of visiting that place? Subject to experience of visiting that place. That's also very very important. So always make sure that you also add that into your writing that place. That's going to bring subjective experience. How did you approach that place? How, what is your reading of visiting that place? That is something very very important to be taken into consideration when once you are writing a place. So always make sure you write, that with some sort of, you know and with some sort of, positivity, and with some sort of reality as well. So always make sure that, you also highlight when you talk about, writing a place. Always make sure you also talk about environment as well. So make sure, how is it like there? Is it very green? Is it tropical? Is it desert? Is it what sort of a place? And also try to give uh, geographical touch to that country, so that, people are also very conscious about how weather is there. So that's very very important. So if you just describe events now, so how do you describe events? Always talk about events. So events are part of our life. Talking about time and place is a very very crucial thing when we're trying to describe an event. So it's a very very important thing to mention the specific time in which this event was held, and a particular place in which this event took place. So especially it's very very important to sort of just talk about the event in such a instant fashion to express that. So always always make sure to sort of discuss events in such a fashion that you talk about the time, you talk about the place, you talk about the main things that were main points that were the main points that were discussed. What were the issues that were talked about? What was the who were the main people who attended it? What was the overall impact, overall reflection of other people in that event? So largely, who are the sponsors of this event as well? Mention these details in writing events. So I think that's going to be very very important. And the point is how to write these things. If you have to write these events, if you have to write anything, if you have to write these things in a PPT, so always make sure to write your PPTs in such a manner that there are some things which you need to write, which you need to take into consideration. Is first of all, always make sure that you choose the right theme, or insert the new slide. Always be sure to save your presentation and add text. Always don't forget to include pictures in your presentation. Have good formatting skills. Add some pictures. Adding some pictures is going to sort of give some pictographic help to so that people can understand. Do not use many slides, it's going to bore people. So keep fonts very very simple. Also, I just use the very good background. be very specific about in terms of choosing colors as well, so that it's very soothing to eyes as well. So always make sure to create less slides, very less slides, explain more. So that's also going to be very important points in terms of writing, making good presentations. Choose your theme wisely, write good font, use pictures in your presentation, do some good research in how to write ppts, just watch, or also have some model ppts in your mind, so that when you're trying to write these, when you're trying to make ppts, so you always have a very good example in your mind, good model. Check grammar, see how, if you have your slides are grammatically correct. So all these points are very important in order to write ppts in your academic careers. So I'm sure if you use this information in your professional career, I'm sure if you just use these lecture in your personal and professional life, I'm sure it's going to increase your magnetism. It's also going to increase the way you speak, and it's also going to make you an effective communicator in future. Thank you. Dear students, today we are going to talk about the very important topic, that is interview skills. So, as far as the interview skills are concerned, I think it's very important for you to consider the importance of skills to deal with interview, and how, what do you understand by the word interview? First of all, later on, how do you build skills so that you are very much confident enough to face the interview, and what are the various skills that are required to perform well at the time of your interview? This is a very important topic as far as your professional career is concerned, as far as your future jobs are concerned. It is very important for you to learn these skills, so that you are in a very good position, so that you take advantage of this information and be very much confident to use these points, to use this information in your future interviews, whether these be related to job or any other thing in future. So I think, the word, there are very some easy steps that you need to follow before. So how your present and past, for example, this is very important for you to consider, that how you should basically prepare your interview in such a manner that you have to just be very confident about what are the skills that you have, what is the expertise that you have. At the same time, it becomes very crucial for you to understand what are the various skills that you would like to develop or improve. And at the same time, this is very important for you to keep this in mind, that interview is the process of interview. What are the questions that they are going to ask? What are the things what are the things that are expected from you during the time of interview? So if we just talk about the event, the moment before the interview, it's very important for you to prepare well before the interview. So what are the various things that you should consider, keeping in mind, keeping in consideration before you are preparing for an interview? So first of all, always make sure, if you are applying to some company, if you are applying to some organization, always make sure to do some sort of research. Always make sure to check their website, so that you have some sort of information about the about section, go to the about section, see what sort of work that organization is doing, what are the various projects that these people have handled before previously. At the same time, who are the top people who are in the organizing committee. At the same time, just also research about what are the various domains of within which this organization, within which this company functions. So this is very very important. Next important thing is always make sure to write. If you are preparing for some interview, you are expected to answer some questions, but at the same time, if you will be if you just prepare yourself, if you prepare some questions, some expected questions that will be asked at the time of interview, it is going to be very very easy for you to face that interview. Let us suppose, for example, if you have not practiced the idea of introducing yourself, it is going to be very very difficult. At the same time, it is going to be very very cumbersome for you to give answer to that question confidently. So what I'm trying to say is, always, since the question of introduction or introducing yourself is very very much expected from the panel, so it would be sort of wise to practice this question before, so that you are in a much confident position before the actual interview time. So also keep in mind other questions that you are expected to answer. Always make sure to dress professionally, and dress professionally means you have to keep in mind that dressing also impacts the decision of the interviewers. So it's also very important for you to give a very very clean look, not only clean look, but at the same time give them impression that you are serious candidate for the post they have advertised. So always make sure to keep in mind the idea of time. Just always make sure to arrive on time, so that you do not confuse yourself, so that you do not ruin end moments, so that you don't face any stressful situation at the towards the close of the your interview, or before the interview time. So it's very very important for you to arrive on time, so that your mind is calm, so that you are very very much confident, so that you don't have some sort of stress in your mind, so that this calmness helps you navigate the interview very well. So again, at the same time, it's very important for you to also keep in mind that first impression is the last impression. Always make sure to use that opportunity, use that interview time to give your best. Always try to present yourself in the best possible manner, because you will not get the second chance to introduce yourself, to express yourself. So it is a first and last chance. So always make sure that you are presenting yourself in an absolute best possible manner before the committee. That is very, very much important in establishing a rapport with the panel. That's very, very important. So always be very, very conscious about how how you are going to use your body to reflect confidence. At the same time, be very, very much wise to use, to employ non-verbal forms of communication to reflect your confidence before the committee of people who are checking and judging or interviewing you for that particular position that they are hiring at the same time. So it's very, very much important to consider these things. Again, not only non-verbal communication, but at the same time your oral communication, your speaking skills should be very, very good. Your speaking skills should be you should be communicating in such a manner that you reflect confidence, that you reflect that you are a very good, you are a very good and efficient speaker of that language. So it is very, very much important to consider that point as well. So at the same time, always make sure to not only speak well, but at the same time, you have to ensure the point that always try to listen to the people, listen to the panel, listen first of all carefully, then when you listen, take some minutes to digest what they are trying to say, then later on just start speaking. Do not hesitate, do not hesitate. Always feel confident that you are the best person in that room. Always feel like that. So it's very, very much important for you to also be very brief and punchy in terms of your answering process. Always make sure to give answers in a brief and punchy manner so that it is very, very much clear to them that you do not beat around the bush. You are very, very particular in terms of your answering process. So always in that sense, if you answer anything, if you answer, always make sure to be very, very much truthful with the recollection of the answers that you are trying to give. So it's very, very much important. Another point which you have to take into consideration is the idea of being the idea of knowing your CV. Let us suppose, for example, you have submitted CV before the interview process. That is the usual case, but always make it sure to know your CV well enough to answer any expected question from the panel there. Always make sure to know what you have written in your CV so that it becomes very easy for you to justify whatever you have said in your CV, whatever you have written in your CV. That is very, very much important. So it is at the same time, always keep things at a very, very professional level so that you reflect the idea of confidence, professionalism before those before these people. So it's very, very much important to consider. If you keep these things in mind before the interview, your process of navigating that interview will be very, very smooth, and you will not face a lot of trouble there. So always make sure to do these things. Consider keeping these things in mind before you attempt any interview in future. Another topic quite related to this interview process is the idea of what are the some of the core skills that you need to do, that you need to attempt before you are going for their before you are going for the interview. So as I previously said, that you have to always believe and engage yourself in the process of research. What do you mean by research? What do I mean by research? So it means I have to take enough time. I have to take enough time to review the website, especially about page, so that I am Googling about the company name. I am reading any press releases they have released lately. I am also looking at the social media platforms of that company, so that to get a know-how of that company, so that to understand the working structure of that company. And it is very, very much important that researching will basically help you in the interviewing process, because you will be in a very, very good position to recollect any question, any information that is being asked by the panel there. So it's very, very much important to research before you are going for any interview. Again, always make sure to prepare well before the process of interview. What do you understand by preparing well? It means you have to always make sure to read the job description. That is very, very much important. What do you understand by the job description? Description of the job means anything that is related to the idea of a job, the job, a role, and responsibility of that job. Always reread the job description, and always see the expected reality. Always see the expected reality, expected responsibility of that job. So it's very, very much important to understand that as well. Come up with several specific answers to those questions which will be related to responsibility of that job. So always make sure to understand that it's very important for you to practice these questions, practice unexpected questions, so that it's very, very much important for you to know these details so that you crack the interview process very well. So always make sure that you are preparing well before the interview, and it is important for you to also be very, very much punctual in terms of interview process. Be show some sort of professionalism in terms of the ideas. And again, we are just talking about the communication part, listening part, asking questions. Again, we discussed communication part, we also discussed listening part, but we also have to discuss, if you have any questions, never hesitate to answer, to question, to ask for any questions. Never hesitate. If you have any clarifications, if you have any confusion regarding the job, regarding the responsibilities of that job, always make sure to post or ask those questions, because it will help you in understanding that job very well. Always do that. So it's important to convey your genuine interest in the position that has been advertised during the job interview. Always make sure to reflect confidence and interest in the job that has been advertised. Always make sure that you present yourself in such a manner that you reflect that you are the best candidate for that job. Always do that. So now, if you are now you are in a position to what you have to do after the interview is done. So it is very much important. Do not feel that after the interview is done everything is done. No, after the interview you have to make sure that you have to make sure some points that you have to be in touch, get in touch to ask these people update about, leave them a thank you email as well. It's very much important for you to do that. Also, thank the interview is to thank the interviewer is very important, and write them a mail. You can thank there as well. So that is very much important in terms of the process. So what do you do before the actual interview? There is a process that you have to follow. That is, since there might be a lot of people are there who have fear for speaking, fear of interviews. So also it is very wise, it's very good to also sort of go for mock interviews. These are like test interviews before the actual interview happens. So you have one or two mock interviews so that you gauge yourself, so that you check yourself, so that you check your preparation in the for the interview. So always make sure that you have to always prepare for the always go for the mock interview. A mock interview is already a practice interview. It basically simulates the real experience you will have. It simulates some sort of experience that you are going to experience in the interview process. So what are some of the benefits of that mock interview? So how do you sort of prepare for that mock interview is a very important topic. So practice with the right mock interviewer is a very important point. It is best if the person who will carry out the mock interview is from your field. So always make sure that you practice with the person who is an expert of that field, so that he gives you genuine feedback to improve later on. So always make sure to practice with the right mock interviewer, so that you can ask an experienced and senior professional, and so that it helps you to get expert advice, so that you can navigate the process of interview very well. Again, it is very much important to interview with the right or multiple people. If you have an opportunity always make sure to do mock interviews with multiple people. You will learn how to remain calm and collected when facing people from multiple when facing multiple people. So it will expose you to different reality, and then it will leave you more confident than before. Recreate the interview setting is also very, very much important. You have to always make sure that whenever you are preparing for that interview, for the mock interview, you have to dress very well. You have to make that performance so real that you should feel that this is a real interview. Do this by some sort of writing. Do this by dressing properly, by taking that act very, very seriously. So it's very, very much important to do that as well. So at the same time, recreate this interview setting will help you to navigate the process very well. Again, research the company that we have already discussed. At the same time, dressing well for the interview, it's very, very much important to do that as well. So always, another point which is very important is the idea of checking your CV and other materials at hand. It is very, very much important to check your CV, see whether you are what you have written in your portfolio, what you have written in your CV, so that your mock interviewer will be able to ask you question on the basis of your CV. It is quite possible that some of the questions will be repeated, and since you have already practiced, since you have already done a practice, so it will be very, very much easy for you to crack the questions, to answer those questions. So that is very, very much important. The star method consists of, it's also a very, very much important point. You should practice the star method, which basically consists of framing responses to the interview questions according to the situation, task, action, and result. You will need to take time to make such well considered responses, and this will also help you in navigating the process of interview very well. So another best tip to handle your interview would be the record the mock interview. The process of recording is very, very much important to help you understand what is the area in which you are doing best, what are the areas in which you are performing you are weak, or you need, there is a scope to improve. So recording will always enable you to sort of practice again in your home, so that you are in a very good position to handle actual interview as well. So it's very. So, what I was trying to say is that the act of recording becomes very, very much important for you to go home and later on check those points, see where are the areas in which you can make progress. So, review your recording becomes very, very much important for you to understand your weaknesses, your good points, so that you use this sort of mock interview, so that you use this sort of information to crack the actual interview very well. Now we will now move towards the idea of the topic of public speaking. So always whenever you have to speak in public, always make sure to know your audience before you are preparing your speech, because if you do not know your audience, I think it's going to be very, very much difficult for you to sort of, you know, it will be very, very much difficult for you to prepare speech without knowing your audience. So always make sure that you know your audience before preparing for speech, so that you have a very good idea, you have a very fair idea, what is the age group you are targeting, what is the criteria that I'm trying to fulfill, what is the main message, what is the cognitive capacity of the people there. So it's going to be very, very easy then if you start practicing, if you start preparing your speech before if you prepare speech, if you prepare your speech and just know your audience before that. So public speaking is not nobody is born with sort of good public speaking skills, polished public speaking skills. Again, it is very much it's advised, it's also would be wise to sort of always practice makes one perfect. Always make sure that you practice those public speaking. Always take opportunities to talk in public, practice, make mistakes, grow, use those information, use your mistakes to grow again. So always practice, practice, and practice. Use also constructive criticism to your advantage. For example, if you are giving lecture at any point of time, at anywhere, for example, if somebody says that you have to lower your pitch, you have to improve in these areas, you are best in this area, but at the same time you have to work in this area, always make sure that you use this information to grow. This will basically help you to grow. You don't have to be you don't have to be arrogant. You don't have to be arrogant in the terms of, if somebody offers you criticism, if that criticism is intended for you to grow, for your personal development, for your growth, then you don't have to get offended. You have to use that information for, and that is very, very much important, important part of developing the skill of public speaking. So always make sure that you use that. Connecting with the audience can also happen more easily when you are being yourself. So always make sure that you are you when you are presenting anywhere. Do not copy the accent, do not copy the material, do not copy the style of some other person. Your way of communication is very unique. Your style is very unique, it's remarkable. Your information, your experiences are quite unique. So always make sure to be you when you are presenting anywhere. That's a very, very much important point to be noted here. So connect with your audience with a personalized story, with a personal story. So including, if you only talk about information, if you only talk about, if you only talk about information which is based on, if you only talk about information, data, then I think it's going to be very, very much difficult for people to comprehend what you're trying to say. Always it is best, it is advisable to use your personal anecdotes, to use your personal experiences, to use your personal stories, to use the art of storytelling in the process of your public speaking. If you use stories, then there is a great possibility that audience will be able to connect with you. They will feel related to your stories, And with passage of time, what will happen with that moment, what will happen is that you will develop some sort of affinity with your audience, and that is a very, very important skill. Always make sure that you have to use your eye contact and avoid reading from the script. So if you have some points, that's okay, but at the same time, do not continuously read from the script, because it is not going to be, then it will not look like an organic process. So always make sure that you are maintaining right eye contact with the people, so that you give them impression that you are very much confident. Lot of people also have a fear of stage, so always make sure that you use the you always use the stage before the presentation. Gather, check your PowerPoint presentation, see, you always use the stage to your advantage, is where you have to see if your PPT is working. Ask about what is the time limit. Ask if the microphone is working. If you consider these details, then it will be very, very much easy for you to feel that freeness in that stage, on that stage. It's very important to be able to free, it's very important to be able to feel free when you are on the stage. Consider it, it is your land, it is your domain, you are the boss. And then when you start, when you have that feeling inside you, then it becomes very easy for you to to deliver your talk. Have coping skills in place for when the nerves hit is a very, very much important. It is normal to still find yourself overcome with some sort of pressure during the presentation. Despite your preparation, it is expected that you might feel some sort of nervousness on the stage. When that nervousness hits you, always make sure that there is a water close to you. Always make sure you have to use your breath. Deeply take some deep breaths. It will calm your nerves down. No, because always expect that nobody is perfect. Always expect that nobody is perfect. So if you do that, it is going to be very important. So when you are gaining that important, so it's very, very much important to feel that it is a natural part of being a human. So there is nothing to worry when you have to do that. Record and evaluate yourself speaking is again very, very much important public speaking skill that you have to always keep in mind when you are trying to give any presentation. Making a lasting impression with a strong conclusion is very, very much important. For example, public speaking, if you are doing any public speaking, making impression is a very, very much important part. It's very important for you to see what are the things that are very important. It's again very, very much important to see that you are basically in your conclusion, you are reiterating some of the very important topics, some of the very important skills, some of the very important points that you have already highlighted throughout your presentation or throughout your talk. So always make sure to use this information, to use those. So if you use these things, if you use these information, I am sure you will basically keep the interview process very smooth for you. So in this lecture, we have I think we covered largely the part where we recognized, highlighted the importance of interview. We also gave you to understand how you can also use mock interview in favor of you. We can also see how it becomes very important for you to enhance your public speaking skills. At the same time, it's very important for you to see how you have to use those public speaking skills to sharpen your personality, to be very confident. And we also gave you to understand some points for sharpening, some points, so that you are just whenever you present yourself on stage, whenever you get an opportunity to speak in public, so that you are very much confident wherever you speak. So I'm sure if you use this information in your personal life, it's going to it's going to make you more confident. It is going to bring you more opportunities wherever you go. So I'm sure that you use this information in your personal and professional life. Thank you very much.